A critical hurricane is approaching. Flooding and tornadoes are devastating. Wildfires are spreading everywhere. We provide fast and accurate updates. Your Hurricane and Storm Center.
Good evening, and welcome to Hurricane and Storm Center. Thank you for joining us as we continue tracking tropical weather, oceanic conditions, and severe weather risks affecting the United States and surrounding waters. Here is your full weather outlook and forecast for tonight and June 24th, 2026. As of the current time, the tropical Atlantic, the Caribbean Sea, the Gulf of America, and waters off the U.S. East Coast are entering the early phase of the 2026 Atlantic hurricane season. This period is typically characterized by a gradual increase in tropical convection as sea surface temperatures remain elevated across much of the basin, providing ample energy for developing disturbances. The subtropical Bermuda High continues to dominate the western Atlantic pattern, maintaining a generally steady easterly to southeasterly flow across the tropical Atlantic. This steering pattern supports the westward movement of tropical waves emerging from Africa toward the Caribbean and the waters near the United States. Across the Gulf of America, conditions remain typical of early summer, with hot sea surface temperatures, high humidity, and frequent afternoon and evening thunderstorm development. Some of these storms may become locally strong, producing brief heavy rainfall, lightning activity, and gusty winds, especially along coastal areas from Texas through Florida. The Caribbean remains under steady trade winds, with the Western Caribbean seeing occasional stronger thunderstorm development, while Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands continue to experience passing tropical showers, mainly during the afternoon. During the next 24 hours, the western Atlantic and waters off the southeastern United States will remain under a light to moderate south to southeasterly flow. Marine conditions are generally stable, however, afternoon and evening thunderstorm activity along Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas may produce locally heavy rainfall, gusty winds, and reduced visibility. Across Florida and the Florida Strait, scattered thunderstorms will continue to dominate the weather pattern, with the potential for intense lightning and brief heavy downpours during the afternoon hours. Along the Gulf of Mexico, conditions remain mostly stable, though scattered coastal thunderstorms may develop near Texas, Louisiana, and Florida during the late afternoon and evening hours, causing localized wind and wave fluctuations. The Caribbean remains under steady trade winds, with the Western Caribbean seeing occasional stronger thunderstorm development, while Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands continue to experience passing tropical showers, mainly during the afternoon. Looking ahead over the next 5 to 7 days, tropical activity across the Atlantic is expected to gradually increase as we move deeper into late June and early July, when ocean heat content continues to build and tropical waves become more frequent and organized. In the Gulf of America, the potential for weak low-pressure development remains present, although no specific tropical cyclone formation is currently evident. The Western Caribbean remains the most closely watched region, as environmental conditions may become more favorable for tropical depression development if wind shear decreases and convection persists. Any system forming in this region would need to be closely monitored due to its potential proximity to the Gulf of America and the southern United States. Across the tropical Atlantic, additional tropical waves continue to emerge from the coast of West Africa, reflecting a gradual increase in seasonal activity, although most systems will require time to organize. For the U.S. East Coast, no immediate tropical cyclone threat is indicated in the short term, though typical summer weather hazards such as thunderstorms, heavy rain, and heat episodes remain possible. For the next 24 hours, the tropical cyclone threat to the United States remains low, as no organized system is currently present that could directly impact land areas. Over the next 2 to 5 days, the threat level rises slightly to low to moderate due to persistent disturbances in the Western Caribbean and the Gulf of America, although significant development remains uncertain. Over the 5 to 7 day range, the threat level remains moderate, primarily focused on the western Caribbean, the southern and eastern Gulf of America, the region near Florida, and the western subtropical Atlantic, where environmental conditions are gradually becoming more favorable for tropical development. In summary, there is currently no evidence of an immediate tropical cyclone threat to the United States. However, atmospheric and oceanic conditions are steadily becoming more supportive of tropical development as we move toward late June and early July 2026. The key areas to monitor closely include the Western Caribbean, the Gulf of America, and the southeastern waters of the United States, as tropical waves and convective activity continue to increase. Thank you for following Hurricane and Storm Center. We will continue to provide updates as new developments emerge across the Atlantic Basin and U.S.-adjacent waters.
Here's the latest nationwide weather update and forecast for tonight and Thursday, June 24, 2026. Regional weather forecast Northeast. A strengthening ridge of high pressure offshore continues to pump warm and increasingly humid air into the northeast. Tonight, scattered showers and thunderstorms will develop across parts of upstate New York, northern Pennsylvania, and northern New England, with localized downpours, frequent lightning, and gusty winds in stronger cells. On Thursday, the heat builds further as temperatures rise well above seasonal averages. Highs will reach the upper 80s to mid-90s across much of the region, with heat indices pushing into the upper 90s to near 100 degrees Fahrenheit in urban corridors from Washington, D.C. through Philadelphia, New York City, and into southern New England. A late-day disturbance approaching from the west may trigger additional thunderstorms, particularly across interior and northern zones, where some storms could become strong to locally severe, with damaging wind gusts and brief torrential rainfall. Regional weather forecast Southeast. The southeast remains locked under a hot and very humid air mass. Tonight, scattered thunderstorms will continue across Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and the Carolinas, producing heavy downpours, frequent lightning, and localized gusty winds. On Thursday, oppressive heat will intensify, with widespread highs in the upper 80s to mid-90s and heat indices exceeding 100 degrees Fahrenheit across Florida, southern Georgia, and coastal Plain regions. Afternoon and evening thunderstorms will be widespread, especially along the Gulf Coast and Florida Peninsula, where abundant tropical moisture will fuel repeated storm development. Localized flash flooding will be possible in urban centers and poorly drained areas due to slow-moving storm cells. Regional weather forecast Midwest. The Midwest will remain one of the most active weather regions in the nation. Tonight, a cluster of thunderstorms over Iowa, Missouri, and Minnesota will continue tracking eastward, with embedded strong to severe cells capable of producing damaging wind gusts, large hail, and isolated tornado potential in the most intense cells. On Thursday, another round of strong to severe storms is expected, especially across eastern Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and western Missouri. Some storms may organize into larger complexes, capable of producing widespread damaging winds, embedded tornado threats, and localized flash flooding due to repeated heavy rainfall. Regional weather forecast Great Lakes. The Great Lakes region faces an increasing threat of organized severe weather. Tonight, thunderstorms may move across Wisconsin and western Michigan, bringing strong wind gusts, heavy rainfall, and occasional lightning activity. On Thursday, conditions become more favorable for severe thunderstorm development around Lakes Michigan, Huron, and Erie, as warm, unstable air remains in place ahead of an approaching disturbance. Strong winds will be the dominant threat, though hail and isolated tornadoes cannot be ruled out. Temperatures will rise into the 80s and lower 90s ahead of storm development, contributing to an increasingly unstable atmosphere. Regional weather forecast Plains/Central Plains. The Central Plains remain in the core of an active severe weather pattern. Tonight, severe thunderstorms are expected across portions of Nebraska, Kansas, and Dakotas, with large hail, damaging winds potentially reaching 60 to 80 miles per hour, and several tornadoes possible in the most intense cells. On Thursday, another round of strong to severe storms is expected, especially across eastern Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and western Missouri. Some storms may organize into larger complexes, capable of producing widespread damaging winds, embedded tornado threats, and localized flash flooding due to repeated heavy rainfall.
Regional weather forecast, Southwest. The Southwest will remain hot and mostly dry. Tonight, clear to mostly clear skies will dominate across Arizona, southern Nevada, and southeastern California, with only isolated high-terrain cloud development. On Thursday, extreme heat will continue to build, with temperatures reaching 100 degrees to 110 degrees Fahrenheit across lower desert valleys. Isolated afternoon thunderstorms may develop over higher terrain in Arizona and New Mexico, producing gusty outflow winds, lightning, and brief heavy rainfall. Regional weather forecast, Rockies. The Rockies will see a mix of sunshine and scattered afternoon thunderstorms. Tonight, isolated storms will persist across portions of Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana before gradually weakening overnight. On Thursday, renewed thunderstorm development is expected, especially across central and southern Colorado, where stronger cells may produce hail, gusty winds, and localized heavy rainfall. Temperatures will remain above seasonal averages in many mountain valleys and foothill communities, contributing to a moderately unstable afternoon environment. Regional weather forecast, Northwest. The Northwest continues a developing stretch of summer-like warmth under strengthening high pressure. Tonight, clear skies and mild conditions will prevail across Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. On Thursday, strong high pressure will bring abundant sunshine and a significant warming trend, with highs reaching the upper 80s to mid-90s across many inland locations. Portions of eastern Washington and eastern Oregon may approach or exceed 100 degrees Fahrenheit, increasing heat stress concerns. Dry conditions will also elevate wildfire risk, especially in areas with dry fuels and breezy afternoon winds. Regional weather forecast, West Coast. The West Coast remains generally dry and warm under stable high pressure. Tonight, marine layer clouds and patchy fog will continue along portions of the California coastline, especially near coastal valleys. On Thursday, coastal areas will remain seasonably mild, while inland regions warm significantly under strong sunshine. The Central Valley of California may see highs in the upper 90s to near 105 degrees Fahrenheit, with similar hot conditions extending into interior valleys of Oregon and Northern California. Regional weather forecast, Alaska. Across Alaska, a broad and somewhat unsettled pattern persists. Tonight, scattered showers will affect portions of western and central Alaska, while southern coastal areas remain relatively quieter with occasional breaks in cloud cover. On Thursday, cooler than normal conditions will persist across parts of interior and western Alaska, with periods of light to moderate rain continuing in northern and western regions. Southeastern Alaska will remain milder with a mix of clouds and occasional sunshine. Regional weather forecast, Hawaii. The Hawaiian Islands will continue under a typical trade wind regime. Tonight, passing showers will primarily affect windward slopes in coastal communities, while leeward areas remain mostly dry. On Thursday, moderate to locally breezy trade winds will persist, with a mix of morning sunshine and afternoon clouds. Brief showers will continue across windward and mountain areas, while temperatures remain seasonable in the lower to middle 80s. That concludes our nationwide weather forecast for tonight and Thursday, June 24, 2026. Thank you for watching Hurricane and Storm Center. Stay weather aware, especially across the plains, Midwest, and Great Lakes, where severe thunderstorms are expected. We'll see you again in our next weather update.